Sleep paralysis. We all got it, we all love it. Sleep paralysis is scary, personally. I've had sleep paralysis since I was 11, and at that age, it ain't fun. But the older I get, the more I realize it still ain't fun. Unfortunately, people have trivialized sleep paralysis to the point that it's so widely discussed, it's almost not interesting anymore. Unless you've gotten it, that is, in which case, it's still terrifying, and perhaps hating things just because they're mainstream is in fact not a substitute for understanding them, nor is it actual critical thinking. So why not draw some of these monstrosities I've seen over the course of my life? I'll be illustrating these with gouache, because I've fallen out of using it lately, and I would very much like to change that. I'm just using my normal traveler's sketchbook for this, and the paper in this one is not at all made for wet mediums. So I marked off the painting areas into little 3x3 quadrants in the hopes that the paper wouldn't buckle as much or get as noticeably worn. Did I succeed? Did I write a joke for this part of the script? Kinda. Picture this. I'm 11, and I am immune to the terrifying effects of the world, with the exception of having seen E.T. I never watched a horror film, and generally stayed away from scary stuff. And yet, one night, as I lay soundly in the top bunk of my brother and I's bunk bed, I awoke to find myself frozen in terror. The room was lit in deep reds and vibrant greens, and all was unnaturally silent. As I sat there, I began to hear a ringing noise, which grew louder and louder, until to my surprise, the form of a humanoid peered over the edge of my top bunk bed. It was small, only about a foot in length, but its presence was very imposing, to say the least. I can't remember any of its features. It was like it was cast in a continuous shadow, and after a moment, it began crawling my way. It traveled at a steady pace, and as it got closer and closer, the ringing in my ears intensified, like that ringing you get when a machine is turned on somewhere in the distance. As I'm recording this, a ringing actually just popped into my ears. It's ghosts. At an unnatural, rapid, yet restrained pace, it crept over the covers and approached my face. After what was only a few seconds, yet felt like minutes, the thing had gotten right up to me and pressed its face into my own. And then, I awoke. And to think that 11-year-old Nolan thought that E.T. was creepy. Oh no, Buster. I was changed then and there, and I now knew that there were things in the world, and even my own mind, which are twisted and unexplainable. Beings beyond my own 11-year-old comprehensions. Things just as cruel, unfathomable, and evil as E.T. This one brings me back, which is weird to say because I had never considered myself nostalgic for sleep paralysis creatures before until I started drawing this one. It reminds me of Kevin. See, back when I had Kevin, her heat lamp would be on most nights in the winter, because it was winter. This is like the 5th or 6th time I'd gotten sleep paralysis, but it was only like the 3rd or 4th time I actually saw something. I think because of the lights in her cage, I imagined a set of glowing yellow eyes. It was weird. This time, it was like my vision zoomed in on it, as it stood there. Its body was kind of transparent from what I remember, but not in the usual sense. It was like the only parts you could see were the parts you stared at directly. Everything else would disappear or become translucent. Very cool thing to wake up to. Total, the vision only lasted for 14 seconds, but it wasn't very nice. Also, I'd like to say that if you're going to do gouache on sketchbook paper, either put down the proper color first or get a different sketchbook, because this stuff buckles and falls apart as you stroke it. Just like Imagine, if you will, you're laying in bed at 11 p.m. one warm summer night. You just got off of a 10-hour shift at Home Depot, and you know you're also the opener tomorrow. As you lay there, your mind begins to lightly dream. Without warning, a voice says your name merely an inch from your face. Bogmeyer. I'm going to assume that's your name. It says firmly, but not too loud, like someone was having a conversation with you, face to face. You even feel their breath against your skin. Your eyes shoot open, and for but a split second, you swear you see a face pressed against your own before it is gone. From what you could glimpse, its eyes were huge, and its face was stretched horizontally beyond your field of vision. You frantically scan the room, that all too familiar cold sweat is back, and the feeling of dread shoots down your spine. This time though, rather than building, the feeling subsides, and you find yourself scanning an empty room, seldom lit by your closet light and the crack under the door. You are safe, though for the rest of the night, you feel anything but. I only saw this guy for like a split second, but needless to say, not a fan of him. Nothing better than not sleeping for more than 2 hours and then going straight to work. Fun. I am most proud of this painting, by the way. I feel like my values are a little better in this one compared to the others. Also, it looks the most accurate of the 4 of them, to my recollection. My most recent, demon, for lack of a better word, encounter was less than a year ago in my new place. We'd only been in the new house for a couple of months by this point, and we hadn't even fully unpacked yet. It must have rained that night, because it was unusually bright outside. The clouds created this strange glow, like a barely perceptible red. For a few moments, the world seemed monochrome. The perfect environment to awaken to when the motor function center of your brain stops working. And not work, it did. At first, there was nothing, and so I tried to calm myself. By this point, I was able to stabilize my breathing and usually escape these situations as they had become a simple fact of life by this point, honestly. So, I didn't see anything and went back to bed. Of course I saw something. Not only was I suddenly awoken, but I was also not able to escape the paralysis like I had been able to for a while up to this point. I really thought I was immune to demons, so I look over across the room, seeing nothing at all, until my eye catches the canopy drape hanging down over the foot of my bed. My brain then took those drapes and said, what if it was a ghoul instead? What if it stared right through our soul? Is hell real? Then the unmistakable image of a face appeared, bathed in red, jaw agape. I couldn't see it too well because of the drapes obscuring it, but I know its features were out of place. Its eyes were too inset and far apart, and its mouth was too wide and toothy. So, I succumbed, and after some of the longest seconds of my life staring it down, it disappeared. Luckily, it didn't get closer to me, but still, its message was clear. I would never know if I was immune to it or not from here on out, and since then, I've waited for another chance to test whether or not that's true. And then a demon killed me in my sleep and made me diabetic. Ooh. Real advice for anyone who gets sleep paralysis. Just close your eyes and control your breathing slowly. So long as you don't lean into that feeling of dread or try to force movement too soon, you'll snap out of it in a matter of seconds. But if you do try to resist, you could be trapped there for as long as your brain likes. I've even heard stories of people getting sleep paralysis that lasts up to a whopping 15 seconds. But what's really important is to remember that it's all in your head, and these things are just you psyching yourself out. So don't do that. And with all that said and done, I'm done for now. Hope you liked the paintings. I did not like this paper. Also, I chose not to paint a bunch of my other demons because they weren't very cool. When I was 12, I had a Minecraft Enderman sleep paralysis dream. It grabbed my baby head and shook me and screamed in my face until I was crying. Until next time.